discover more about the nature of reality and help create a better life for yourself and the rest of the planet. My name is Icke, and I've created a process called Draw Your Reality. For more information, you can go to my website, nikkipalmer.com, and receive a free gift that I put together just for you.
Now, we've been having a story running in Britain about efforts to reach Britain by migrants in France by floating or sailing small craft across the English Channel. And this has been coming for a long time. And the story is part of this massive mass migration agenda, which is aimed at changing the nature of European society and changing the nature of American society as well. Because when you research the people and the organizations that are behind it, well, they're the usual bloody suspects. It's no accident that an organization has started in America to campaign to allow what is estimated to be up to 22 million undocumented migrants that have come across the southern border without papers, without legally being allowed to stay. And the organization, or one of the people at the center of this organization, is a guy called William Crystal. William Crystal was a co-founder of the Project for the New American Century, which came out with a list of target regime change countries in the Middle East in September 2000, which the American government under successive administrations has continued to pursue in terms of Iraq and Libya and Syria and Iran. So, and again, the George Soros networks of the Open Society Foundations are all massively involved in this mass immigration agenda, which, as I point out in the last book, Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told, can be charted back at least what is happening now to the 1920s, and it would go back further than that. So this is not happening by accident, it's happening by design. And the claim is that it's people fleeing wars and oppression, and thus we must let everybody in to these countries because it would be bad not to. But I'm the first person to say that if people are fleeing wars and persecution, then of course they should be allowed to escape from that. But of course, it's becoming increasingly obvious, as it has been for a long time anyway, that the vast overwhelming majority, up into the 80% at least, and in terms of the southern border of America, recently was estimated at 95%, are not actually fleeing war and fleeing oppression, but just want to get into America and want to get into Europe. Now, if I was living in situations that they're living in economically, then so would I. But the fact is that if you have a massive influx of people, then there are equally massive implications for the countries they're going into, in terms of jobs, in terms of housing, in terms of healthcare, in terms of all these things. And the people that are forgotten in all this are those in the countries of Europe and in the United States, etc., who are living in the country legally, who were born in the country, who are in desperate straits economically, who can't feed their families, who are living in the streets. What the heck happens to them? Because one group gains from mass immigration of poor people, and that is the corporations and the elite, who can therefore suppress the wages of everybody by saying, well, if you won't do the job, we'll find someone else who'll do it cheaper. If you won't do it for this, then there's someone who will. And the trade unions have, like the so-called parties of the left, if only, the Democrats in America and the Labour Party in Britain, have absolutely abandoned these people. Because once you have a situation where an incoming population is crucial in deciding who wins a political power by the basis of how they overwhelmingly vote, then you reach a situation where the focus is not on the people I'm talking about, it's on the people you need to persuade to vote for you. So you start forming your policies to attract their vote and their support. And then the other people just get forgotten and abandoned. So you look at the urban poor, the urban working class, whatever racial background they may have, and you look at them from a left party point of view, and you say, well, they're going to vote for us anyway. Who else are they going to vote for? They're not going to vote for the other side, who are kind of even worse than us in terms of the way that we treat them. So they're going to have to vote for us. So we don't have to give them anything. What we have to do is focus our attention and our policies on those we have to attract to get power. And this is what's happened in America with the Democratic Party. It's what's happened in Britain with the Labour Party. And so as more people have tried now to get across the channel into Britain, the government, Conservative government of Theresa May, has now introduced more naval ships patrolling the channel to stop this. And you've got the Labour Party coming out and criticising them. And of course they're criticising them because they are focusing their attention on people they have to attract to get power. And there's also this left of centre progressive mindset now that basically says all migrants good, all people that criticize mass migration bad, bigots, Nazis. And that's the level that the debate has got to. So when the Home Secretary in Britain, a guy called Sarid Javid, who's Muslim himself, started talking about increasing efforts to stop this movement of people in boats across the channel. Of course, he's criticised by the Labour Party and the rest of the progressive left. But what I would say to the Labour Party is go to the urban areas of Britain, the cities, and tell the people in the streets, tell the people who haven't got jobs, tell the people who can't feed their children, that more people coming in and competing for those resources is a good thing. Try telling them. But of course they never do. They just, because they're taken for granted. And we're seeing the same in the United States with the Democrats, where more and more the Democrats have gone into the realms of insanity in terms of immigration, because at the extreme end, they don't want borders. They want to open the borders to anybody. Of course, once you do that, there's no country, there's no America. It doesn't exist. It can't exist without borders. And you cannot have a value system without borders, because other value systems can come in and create a completely different society. And it's one of so many examples, like I said earlier, of the general population being far more intelligent and perceptive than those who claim to be their leaders and opinion formers, because most people can see it. It's pure bloody mathematics, not to do with racism, to do with mathematics. But they can't. And, you know, this whole idea of the European Union and taking down borders within the European Union was a scam to create this situation, because what it means now is you only have to get across one border into the European Union, and then basically you can go anywhere, except in places like Hungary have taken steps to stop that, and being, of course, lambasted by all and sundry for doing so. But what they're doing is they're protecting their country from an influx of people that will dramatically change the nature of that country, not least in terms of economics. But of course, you're not supposed to say this because it's racist and you're a bigot and a Nazi. But you know, people need to ignore all that crap, because that's there to stop the debate. If you can't win a debate on a subject, then don't have it. Just abuse and silence people with another opinion who would win the debate if there was a debate. So we have this story here about this Home Secretary being under fire over Channel migrant comments. Zarid Javid has faced criticism after questioning whether people risking their lives crossing the English Channel are genuine refugees. During a visit to Dover on the coast of the Channel, the Home Secretary defended his call to declare a major incident last week and redeploy patrol vessels from the Mediterranean. He suggested those seeking asylum in the UK should have done so in France or elsewhere on the continent. And opposition MPs, overwhelmingly this Labour Party opposition of Jeremy Corbyn, and campaigners called the comments deeply concerning. But they're not deeply concerning. I mean, the last thing, you know, politics I support is the British Conservative Party, but, you know, and nor do I support Javid. But he's, of course, right. If you're fleeing war and oppression, then when you've entered the European Union, when you've entered places like France, you're no longer in that situation of war. So you're out of it. So why do you want to cross the Channel into Britain? Because you want to come to Britain. Now that you know, that's kind of understandable. Okay, I want to live in Britain. Okay, but don't tell me that you are a genuine refugee when you're already in a place that's not at war and oppressing you. But now you want to go into this other country. It's not because you're a refugee from war. It's because you want to go into that other country. And we need to start having this debate in a mature way that kind of acknowledges that. And that's just all this guy Javid is doing. But oh no, it's bigoted, it's deeply concerning. Well, have you ever asked the urban poor and the homeless, the people without jobs who can't feed their family, whether they find it deeply concerning that people who've not gone through the normal channels of immigration, just come across the channel and walk in. What do you think that's going to do? What do you think that's going to end? You know, all this virtue signaling. Oh, look at me, I care. Well, you don't actually. You care about your own self-image and your own virtue signaling. You don't care about the people of all races and backgrounds that are already in deep economic trouble in Britain and other countries, and the effect on them. You know, we got to stop being, you know, frightened to basically speak obvious, blatantly obvious truths, not least economic ones. And while this argument has been going on about whether people crossing the channel in small boats, well, I mean, how dangerous is that? Whether they should be allowed in or not, whatever. You see stories like this. Surge in families begging for money online as benefits plunge households into destitution. Number of people crowdfunding for donations to help them afford housing, bills and other basic necessities on universal credit, British government's benefit system, which is designed to crush people, rises fivefold in a year. Hundreds of families have been forced into begging for money online as universal credit plunges them into destitution, figures show. There has been a surge in crowdfunding campaigns set up by individuals who say the flagship welfare reform has left them struggling to survive due to delays in benefits payments or cuts in their income. Charities have warned that gaps in financial support through universal credit were leaving responsible people struggling to make ends meet or find a house deposit so as not to leave their families homeless. And some of these same charities or people working for them will be calling for, you know, migrants to be allowed in who are not fleeing war and not fleeing oppression, but just want to make an economic move from where they are to where they want to go. I mean, as this whole migrant debate goes on and on and on, the number of people in Britain that are falling into abject poverty, same in other countries like the United States, just goes on increasing. It's madness. And until people stop virtue signaling and stop being intimidated by the virtue signalers into silence, then this is not going to be challenged, and it has to be. It's absolute madness. And of course, the vast majority of voters that, certainly when they vote for the first time, when they come across the southern border of the United States, they vote Democrat. So it's another reason why the Democrat hierarchy are all in favor of, opening borders. It's crazy. The mathematics are crazy. And because the mathematics are crazy, but it's still being pushed, you know it's the agenda.